Hello everyone and welcome to lesson number 23 of the FX Masters program. Today's going to be another Q&A session. I think we had a great success on the previous one. For what I read from your feedback, you guys loved it. And as you know, I put a lot of value on, you know, talking to you about my experiences and many other things aside from just particles, fluids, and whatever, right? Um, So we'll continue to do these sessions. Our group is growing every day. We're close to 90 members. So I'm assuming that as the group gets bigger, we'll get more and more need for these type of things. So I keep encouraging you to whenever you see that I post that I'm preparing a new Q&A, just you know be there, be ready, send your questions. Try to um, try to avoid just repetitive questions or things that we've been discussing for uh, the previous ones or the lessons and all. Just make sure that you watch all the Q and A's, and it's just so we get the most out of it, right? So you don't miss any chances to get information out there. As we did on the previous one, I'm going to be reading questions from the group in English and in Spanish. I'm going to translate, of course. Um, so you get the full thing, right? The whole range. I don't expect you to be using Maya in this session, so sit back and relax, like they say. So let's go ahead and begin. Let's see. There's quite a few questions in here. Whoa, there's a lot of questions. Okay, that's good. Excellent. Okay, first one. Alejandro is asking me how many effects is it cool for a professional demo reel of VFX? Okay, Alejandro, I don't think there's. You should be looking at it as a number of effects. The way I see it, the way I will expect it to be, is just to show a good range of knowledge. As you can see from my course, I have to put a set number of hours because that's what people like to see when they're buying a product. But it's just an estimate of what we're going to cover. I prefer to think about it in terms of um, how many effects are we going to cover, how many techniques are you guys prepared to tackle anything, you know. So in a demo reel, you have to show um, that you are an all-rounded effects guy. Obviously, just try to focus on what you prefer. Um, keep in mind something, right? When I say effects, it's what we do here in this course, simulations. When I say VFX, it's in general. Okay. Um, so I'm assuming you're asking me for a demo reel in effects because that's what you're training, right? To be an effects TD. So a demo reel in effects, I will expect you to, like I said, cover anything from particles, soft bodies, rigid bodies. Um, those are the main areas, right? Particles, fluids, and geometry. Let's say let's call it geometry, meaning soft bodies and rigid bodies. Um, then you can try to show in your reel what you prefer to do. So, for example, if you see my demo reel, I don't have any cloth or hair, okay, or feathers or grass. Those are things that I don't like to do. I don't enjoy them. Um, so, it's always good to see, to understand from the employer's perspective, to understand what the guy likes to do. I mean, I would never want to bring someone into my team and have him do something that he doesn't like. At least I never did. Every time I hire someone, um, that was one of the questions I would ask in an interview. So, what do you enjoy doing? What you don't like to do? Because I've been there before. I know what it feels like to work on something you don't like, and and, and you will see it so. It's like a climbing a massive hill, a massive mountain, right, to get this film done. So I don't want that. I don't want people to be upset with my team. I don't want people to be tired or annoyed. Or so it's good to show what you prefer to do because technically that's what you're the best things you do. So if you enjoy working in fluids, for example, then probably try to make sure that people understand that from just by looking at your reel. And I mean that with what I said is, you know, show more fluids work, right? Try to always remember to put your best work first. That's the that's a rule of thumb. That's the key thing. But as far as a number of shots, no, keep it short. Like I said on the previous lesson, the previous Q&A lesson, keep it short. Keep it straight to the point. Be creative and all that, but don't worry about number of shots. For example, if you were to take the first assignment, actually, well, assignment from let's say Myodynamics 1 on the effects power user program, the shot with the whole Normandy thing from Private Ryan, or Inspire on Private Ryan. That's one shot, but that shot covers soft bodies, covers rain, so particles, covers mel scripting, it covers instancing, it can cover fluids, it can cover rigid bodies. If you do some sort of motor hits or explosions, will cover many things. You can do fluid clouds, so many things, right? So you can do flags and do cloth with them. So that's one shot, right? But it shows that you have range, a wide range. In my opinion, that's what you should be looking at. If you're talking about VFX in general, that's not really, based on what I said on the previous Q&A, that's not really advised. From at least, I don't advise that to be like an all-rounded, generalist. You're doing such a special and particular course, being this one, and I believe I'm not sure if you're in the movie of the week and the destruction course, but you're doing such a specific training that I would prefer, and I think you will do too, to see yourselves as effects guys, doing the complicated stuff. So to be a generalist, well, it's fine, but you try probably to go into a different path. To be an all-rounded VFX guy, imagine you will have to do modeling, so probably do one shot and do the whole thing, model from all the way from concept to compositing. But my advice is just don't go that way. So yeah, I hope that's a good answer, Alejandro. Vince is asking me, how do you deal with moving from place to place? How often do you need to move across for your career? Well, how do I deal with moving from place to place? Well, check this out. I did that. I moved from place to place for a bit over 10 years, right? So if you think about it, you guys, I assume or I feel that you guys know me. We haven't met personally, but I believe that you guys know me through these sessions and through my lessons and my words. So you know me. You know why I do things the way I do. But someone who's an outsider from this group, let's say this team, like I always call you, or this family that we are, probably someone wouldn't understand why I won't go to a studio right now, and why, in a relative young age, I decided just to steer away from studio work and just do this, meaning training, right? I gave you my reasons on the previous lesson, the Q&A. But someone wouldn't understand it, and that's a consequence of the lifestyle that I had over those 10 years. It doesn't sound like much, for a general career. Some people just, do their professions for 30, 40, 50 years. Who knows, right? They retire at 60 or 70. It's a different lifestyle. So what I'm trying to say with all this is, I moved a lot. I just didn't hesitate to chase the perfect job. Within the job, I wanted to always get the best shot. Those were very intensive and intense. I'm sorry, and it ate all my energy, for those 10 years. But I chose to do that. That's not really necessary. It's a lifestyle choice. So, how do I deal with moving from place to place? In my case, it wasn't and I'm talking about the years for the proper film work, right? From all the way from Ice Age 2 to my last film so far, which was Pacific Rim, right? Those years. Um, I managed to get away with it because my partner, um, which is now my ex-wife, she she was very understanding. She liked to travel. We didn't have kids up to the very end. Actually, I stopped doing this because I had a kid. So we were happy, not living out of a suitcase because that's not true at all. But yes, in a ways that we didn't get attached to material things. Um, we enjoyed every day, whatever we were. So that allowed us to jump from place to place. If you look at my resume, you will see that I've been everywhere. I've worked in so many places. Most, of the reason is just to gain more experience, to get my salary to a place where I wanted it to be. Um, but also because sometimes I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy with the company or the shots that I was going to get or the city where I was living. So I didn't stop for any of that. I just jump. So that's, like I said, that's my experience, my way of doing it. On the other hand, I have friends who, for example, worked with me in Ice Age 2 back in 2005. It's been 12 years and they're still there. Um, I know for a fact I met them and I worked with them. Some people, for example, at Weta in New Zealand, who've been there from all the way from Lord of the Rings, the first Lord of the Rings, and they're still there, right? Um, on the other side of the scale, the other side of the wall, then I know I work with people who, for example, are, and I picture them as this emergency crew kind of guys, so they just show up the last month of the production when everything is messed up. They come in from the other side of the world. They just live in a hotel. They do whatever many of shots they can do and then leave, disappear, go to another country. Those are the crazier ones, that they even more hardcore than I was. And to be honest, that's something I can just tell you because again I feel these conversations, even though you're all 87 of you so far are all over the world, and I'm just in my little desk here, in my country, you know. Um, what is 1 in the morning right now? But I feel this conversation is quite close. I like to picture it that way. I like to picture that I'm sitting, somewhere with each one of you just talking about these things. So what I'm trying to say is that if I were to come back to production work, I'll probably become one of those guys. One of those guys who just travels the world in an emergency situations. I will get paid lots of money for it. I will just, you know, I probably you've seen it from my Instagram and from my social media, but I enjoy living in hotels. I enjoy traveling. I enjoy jumping around. This last few months, I've been in so many different places, and I'm lucky again to have met someone. My partner Stephanie, which she wants to see the world. She wants to travel. We don't want to have kids, so it's cool. It's cool probably to think that way. Probably cool to think that I'll be in New Zealand in a month, and then I'll be in London the next, and then Germany, and then China, and then who knows, right? Um, with all this speech, I'm just trying to say, how do I deal with it? You deal with it in your own terms. If you are a family person, if well, like to be close to home or something, um, you have to make it work. You have to make it work. It's not always necessary to be traveling. That's just probably, remember that the bad things are the ones that get the most attention. So it gets a bad reputation that you always have to be jumping around. But if you manage to find yourself located in London, for example, you could jump from place to place, but it's just studio to studio, and they're all in the same street. So it's fine. If you, I don't know how old you are, Vince, um, but my advice, if you're young, you have the energy, and you don't have the attachment, you know, give it a try, travel and experience things. Um, you will learn a lot from it. How often do I move? The second part of your question. Well, in my case, I move. Um, you get hired on a per project basis in most situations, especially nowadays. So whatever length the project will be. If you get lucky, you get hired to something long and complicated as an avatar, for example, then you're comfortable with a year contract, and then an extension. If you go to like ILM or something, then you might get anywhere from 3 months to 6 months to a year, depends. So if you're good at your job, then you might get hooked into the next one and continue and probably live there for the rest of your days. Um, so yeah, it usually ranges from 3 months to 6 months. It's up to the film that you'll be working on. Chandra, does Play Blast alone make a demo real cool, or is it worth rendering? Well, I think we discussed that in the previous Q&A. I don't mind looking at Play Blast if it's a cool Play Blast. You know, um, just rendering something, just to think that you're gonna make it look pretty, it's gonna fix any simulation mistakes. I wouldn't do that. Um, to be honest, my first demo reels didn't have any renders, or they were very basic. Actually, it was so old that the renders from that time looks like Play Blast from nowadays. So I wouldn't put my money on rendering unless it's something that needs to be rendered to be look nice, to be seen what you did. Right? Um, Sometimes a fluid, it could help, um, but I prefer, if I'm gonna hire you as an effects guy, I prefer to see Play Blast that show me your creativity in how you came up with a solution to a certain problem than to look at a render. Because if I look at a render, well, maybe not me, but maybe someone else. If it looks at your render, they might be judging your render, and you don't want that. You want them to judge you by your simulations, which is what you do. That's why I'm so particular with this course in not messing with rendering too much. Okay, I wouldn't want you to send a render of something that you did some cool, setup that works really cool. It's very adaptable. The whole thing that I push in every class. And then you go ahead and render that, and then they give you comments on the render, which is not really what you're after. So be very selective in what you render. Mohammed is sending me quite a few questions. Did you work with Alex Alvarez? What do you think about him? I asked this because I know that Alex Alvarez also worked in Avatar movie. Nah, I didn't work with Alex Alvarez. And if Alex Alvarez worked in that film, it wasn't in New Zealand, and he wasn't in Weta, he wasn't in ILM. What I understand is that he did some concept work. I don't know him personally, but I admire him very much because he's one of the pioneers. Um, I consider myself a pioneer of this way of teaching, and I know that my course is unique, and um, he's older than me, so he did it before me. He did his own way. He was the only person training for effects many years ago. So I admire that a lot. And he owns or co-owns or whatever Noman, which is a massive money-making machine, and so that's pretty cool. But he's very good at concept art as well. So what I understand is because he was in LA, he did some sort of participation along with Aaron Sims and other guys on the concept art, but he wasn't involved in anything in New Zealand. He didn't put one foot there, believe me. And we were the ones doing all the heavy lifting, so maybe he did some concept probably. Um, so yeah, that's the first one. Have you ever seen anything in real life that makes you say, "I want to do this"? Ooh, even if it's not for work and just for yourself. Oh, let me just read this again, see if I understand it. Have you ever seen anything in real life that makes you say, "I want to do this," even if it's not for work? I'm assuming that if I've seen some sort of, I don't know, let's say if I've seen something on TV that I think, oh, this is cool, I want to try it, probably. Um, yeah, I have, and I do it nowadays. I think that's why I decided to do the movie of the week program. It's because I keep seeing so many things. Um, You're asking me in real life, but um, in any situation, I'm thinking my day to day, right? If I'm not going to the movies, I may see something. I live on an island now, so I'm surrounded by water, of course. So yeah, it kind of it could be. The other night actually, I was driving on the shore, right, on the coastline, and it was nighttime and it was very windy. So I was looking at the all this fog coming from the sea, right, and I thought, well, this would be cool to do on a course, how it was interacting with the windshield of my car and all that. It happens all the time. It probably start happening more if I start to get out a little bit more. So yeah, I probably see that, and it happens every day. I tend to go to the movies almost every day. I watch anything that is playing on the cinema. So every day I do get new ideas and I get new things that I want to try. And I'm not a big fan of watching videos on internet. Going to YouTube and just clicking things. I don't like that. But I do watch movies, lots of films. So even though they're films, sometimes I have situations that are there, they're real. So I want to try to replicate those in the computer. So that's why I did the movie of the week. So because I got that feeling of like, well, I keep going and looking at new things, and what if I have a course that changes every week? That's my idea behind that, right? So yeah. The third question is: have you worked on commercials? If yes, personally, what do you prefer, more commercial industry or film industry, and why? I worked on one commercial in my life. It was a Bacardi, the whole rum thing, and there was some sort of they looked like how can I put it? They looked like comets, let's say, but made of liquid. It was supposed to be Bacardi mixed with like orange juice or something. It looked awesome though. We did that in Real Flow in London at MPC. It was because I was in between projects. I think I was between 10,000 BC and the next film, so I got stuck in commercials for a while. I don't like commercials. That's why I never chose to work on those. I don't like it because I prefer to work on film any day of the week. Why is because the commercials are they want you to be a generalist, and I hate that. I don't like that. They want you to do the entire process, so that means that you have to sacrifice quality on the part that I like, which is simulation. I don't like modeling. I don't like animation. I don't like many things. Compositing. I don't like it. So I don't want to do it. So on film, I have more time to develop things and um, to make a real difference on the film, to make a visual impact on the screen. I got time to prepare, and it's not like I'm lazy because I'm not, but I like to be able to say, um, that like I say, right? The waterfalls on Avatar. Well, I did that. I developed that. That's powerful. That's something that I worked so hard to do it. In commercials, I'm not gonna be able to do that. The deadlines are ridiculous. You have to work. Um, Stupid. Like I said, I used to work 100 hours right on Avatar, 100 hours a week. So I don't shy away from working. I don't mind it. I like it. But for something special, not for a freaking Coca-Cola gig that it lasts 30 seconds and your job is like 2 seconds. So you have to be like move to the almost like move to the company to do that, and then once you finish it, then you start the next one. It's the same thing. I don't like that. That's not my rhythm. So that's why. Who was the best director you worked with, and what makes you believe that director was the best? James Cameron every day. Why? Because that man knows every single little detail about his film. He's a machine to work with. He's a bible of knowledge. To the point that I used to watch his reviews of other departments just to learn, just to learn and listen to what he used to say. He surrounds himself with the best. Um, that guy, like I said on the previous Q&A, I will work on any film that he makes, anytime. I don't mind it. Unbelievable professional for sure. Why haven't you used any plugins such as Fume Effects, My Army, Phoenix Effects, just like a lot of people do? Because I don't like to rely on that. And second of all, we never, any company, every company that I work with, we never needed that. I'm not saying that they're bad, but I don't need Fume. My Army, I never work with crowds. Um, Phoenix Effects, those are, to me, that's just excuses to because you cannot do your work correctly. Remember, keep something in mind. You don't go to a company and you tell them what you want to use. That never happens. Forget about it. That's the job of a supervisor. So you go to a company and you use what they tell you to use. That's why I'm very, very specific. I can't stress that enough. I'm very specific with my course because I don't want you guys to touch plugins. I don't want that. Not now. You can do it later. I'm not going to stop you later on, but not in my course, not on my watch. Because you need to be able to squeeze every drop, okay, of technology and ability out of Maya before you start touching tools like that. Become a true, proper, old school effects DD that will never go out of fashion. All those other tools are just excuses for people to make money, to sell new things, and they just some of them are rubbish. So I wouldn't touch them. And like I said, no studio, and I worked on all of them. They used it. And probably now, they might touch some of them now, but you would never touch, try to touch that thing, those things. I pride myself in saying that everything that I've done is pure Maya. That's good. There is a velocity attribute in Maya, but there is no speed attribute. That is why sometimes we need to identify speed attribute depending on velocity. When do we need to do this? I ask this because I have seen tutorials to do this. There's a velocity attribute in Maya, but there is no speed attribute. It's the same thing. It's just a different name. It's the same thing. Velocity and speed. No, really. I don't. Well, probably I'm not understanding your question correctly, but it's the same thing. Mohammed. There's no real. It's just synonyms of the word. At least for how Maya works. If I didn't get this question on the next Q&A, post it again and rephrase it. What is the main goal of my life? Having fun, living my life and enjoying it, and don't not working for someone else. That is my main goal. I already travel a lot, and I'm tired of traveling. But my girlfriend, she hasn't traveled as much as I have, so I will do that for her. But nowadays, I just want to enjoy my life. I want to drive, which I love to drive my fast cars and all those things. I enjoy that. I enjoy, my time. I appreciate my time very much, and I don't like working for someone else. That's for sure. What is the greatest or the biggest challenge in my life? Well, we're getting a bit personal, which is good. That's fine. I don't mind. My biggest challenge is to make sure that I guarantee a future for me and my partner here now. Um, because I don't have much family, I don't have anyone to give me a hand if something happens to me. So I need to make sure that whatever decisions I make now will be for the betterment of my older days, right? So that's pretty much my biggest challenge to make sure that that happens, that I don't end up, well, somewhere I don't want to be. Let's just put it that way. If you're not an effect supervisor, what would you do? If I were going back to the business, let's say, I wouldn't want to be a supervisor anymore. And it's because of what you asked me in question 7 and 8, let's say. Um, I'm more relaxed now. I don't want, I want to take it easy. I would enjoy doing shots, for sure. Taking new things and just doing the shots and all, but I don't want to have to deal with like meeting after meeting after meeting and budgets and schedules, and I don't care about that. I would like to probably sit quietly somewhere with my headphones on and just do many shots. I enjoy that. So I would probably rather be, as obvious, it's obvious, I guess, for you guys, but I enjoy mentoring people, helping. So I see myself probably as a lead or as a senior TD that helps the younger, the newer guys. Someone who just being left alone because his experience and just don't mess with me too much. That's what I would enjoy to do. And that's probably what I would do. I'll probably go back to the industry after I finish this course. I don't know. We'll figure it out later. We'll see. Question 10 is what is the most country you have visited, probably, and feel that country is really incredible? Well, the country I've been the most is England because I lived in London 3 different times. Um, what country is really incredible? Mine, Venezuela. That's why I'm here. Um, but I never worked here on my career. I mean, now doing these courses, but um, the country I enjoy the most is my country, where I am right now. I could live in many other places. I could continue to travel, but somehow I keep coming back home. I mean, home. I don't have a family here or anything, Um, but I enjoy being in my country. I don't like being an immigrant. I was an immigrant for so many years, and it's just stressful, tiring. So I like mine. Aside of mine, probably the U.S. Because of the way I like living. I'm not a big. I'm not gonna go on hikes and all that. But if you like the outdoors, then New Zealand is the way to go. Overall, I think Australia was great. I enjoy Sydney very much. I try to get a little bit out of each country where I've been. I enjoy France. I enjoy England. I enjoy Russia. Um, every single place has a little bit. But if I had to choose, which I did, which I always do, um, I will try to stay in my country, even if it's messed up and with all the problems that we have here. I'll try to be here because I enjoy it. I wish you could see what I'm seeing right now. It's nighttime, right? It's 1 in the morning, but anyway, um, I can see the ocean right from my window. If I turn right, you might hear my voice just fade up a little, but if I turn right and I look out my window, I have the ocean right in front of me. I have beautiful roads where I can just drive as I like. Um, no traffic, no pollution. It's great. I love it. Actually, I suggest that you give it a try. I'll be happy to show you guys around. Have I ever used Mash for Maya? No, I haven't. I haven't used Mash. Um, no, simple answer. No. 12. Why did you not try to use Bifrost rather than using RealFlow for liquid simulations? It's a matter of choice. I use RealFlow for longer. Um, you shouldn't get too hung up on technologies. I keep seeing this. I don't want to use the wrong word, but these comments constantly from many people asking about this tool or that tool or this tool. Relax, man. All of you, don't worry about it. Use whatever you like. It's the same thing. It's the same freaking thing. I used so many liquid solvers because keep in mind that the big studios have their own tools anyway. Sometimes to say, just don't get too hung up on that. That's why we do our course the way we do it. We learn the core concepts. We don't learn tools. That's stupid. It's stupid. I say stupid because when you get to a studio, they're going to take that tool away. They're going to give you another one. Did you know, for example, that I used 135 different versions of a fluid solver ILM? They don't put that on their magazines and all that stupid articles they write. It's shameful, stupid. 135 versions because I left. That freaking thing kept going for months. I don't know how many versions they did. It was ridiculous. They used to change it twice a day. Some were little changes, but some were big changes. You guys tell me. There was very beautiful water in what's the name of that film? Battleship, right? Then that was done in ILM. The next film was Pacific Rim. Can you justify to throw away the technology from Battleship and do it all over again and do 135 versions in 6 months? It's ridiculously stupid. It's the stupidest thing I ever heard. So don't get too hung up on the tool. Learn the core. Water, you have to do core water. You have to do splashes. You have to do your particle passes and your froth and your foam. And name any software. It will be the same way. So I don't use Bifrost because just simply I don't care for it. Because maybe I have a bad experience because Bifrost used to be Naiad. And I used Naiad at Ayaweta and it was a mess. And I'm not saying this is a mess now, but I'm just saying Naiad, when Naiad came out, and if you don't know what Naiad is, you should read about it. Naiad was a water solver, it had a lot of potential. People came with the stupid node-based things and thinking that was a salvation for everything. They ate a lot of the budget, They thought they were rock stars and we had to go and save them. So it didn't work. So they created Bifrost at Weta. Probably you don't know that either. Bifrost was created during Avatar to try to figure out how to handle the data from Naiad. Okay, Marcus. Okay, Marcus was one of the two guys who created Naiad. He was brought to Weta. He moved to New Zealand because Naiad was a mess. It was failing every day. So he moved there to troubleshoot it. He worked with a couple of brilliant, very intelligent guys who came up with Bifrost, and that was the name, Bifrost. We had it in 2009. So to handle the data and to try to streamline the workflow, okay, great. After that movie came Tintin, The Adventures of Tintin, so it had a lot of water in it. Then Bifrost started to work out. Then Marcus sold Naiad to Autodesk. Autodesk pulled him out of there and just took him to Canada where they are. So and he came with Naiad and Bifrost, and that Bifrost got into what is Maya now. So because probably it's just a subconscious thing, because I've seen it fail so much, and because I don't see it do anything special, different than whatever other softwares can do, then I don't care. It's the same thing. If you learn one, or if you learn the technique, okay, how it works, you can use all of them. Doesn't matter. So once again, don't get too hung up on that at all. Something you will never ever forget. I don't know. My first day at working at a real studio, probably, or even better, the first time I got a job in a movie. I would never forget that, and you probably won't either when your time comes. Many things. I have very good memory, but those are the very special moments. Um, it's a moment you realize that you finally made it, or at least someone gave you what you always wanted, which was an opportunity. Um, so yeah, those are many things. Well, the birth of my son, but I'm thinking that we're talking about effects, right? But so yeah, those are the ones. Let's see. How Wang is asking me. Let me just go back up here. How do you compare different softwares for simulation? Maya, 3D Max, Houdini, which might be sharing similar concepts to create effects, but definitely has their pros and cons. Oh man, they all share the techniques. They all share the concept. That's why I was just saying that earlier. You need to learn the concept. Don't learn the tool. Learn the technique, and you can use any software you like. Um, they all have pros and cons. All of them, even Maya. Don't get me wrong. It's not like Autodesk is paying me. Autodesk is not even have the courtesy to tell others that I'm sharing some free material for the effects power user. So I couldn't care less for the company, right? Um, so Maya has its problems and its advantages, and Max as well, Houdini as well. Um, I happen to learn Maya. I happen to like Maya more than Houdini, so I'm one of those people. I don't know, but um, the thing is, I don't know. I think out of the three choices you gave me, which is Maya, Max, and Houdini, I will say the Max is the one that is losing the battle, and he's the most likely to. He, I think Max, and I should probably rephrase it. Max is alive and well because other industries, architectural industry, video games, probably, they keep Max alive, and they will keep it alive. But in film, again, in all the places that I worked, never used Max. We never had even the choice to use Max or the need to use Max. Always was Maya, and Houdini was, coming into the play um, into some of those studios, and they were just dividing the teams into two. Um, and you could choose what you wanted, right? But they all have problems, all of them. How do studios choose these programs for specific shots? Well, that decision is made on a higher level. So that's made on the from the VFX supervisor with the effects supervisor, probably in the CG soup. Those three people probably will choose. Sometimes it's based, most of the times it's based on availability of artists. What is easier to find? Is it easier to find Maya guys or Houdini guys? All studios, that's for sure. All studios have Maya licenses, but not all of them have Houdini licenses. So there's always going to be a tendency to try to do things in Maya because all the other departments, you would never see a studio. Well, you would never. I saw one, but that's why you don't see them anymore because they disappeared. Um, I would say you don't see studios that do all the work, rigging, animation, all that stuff in Houdini, for example. It's not going to happen. So the Maya is always going to be there. They decide. Sometimes they decide on. I wouldn't say on shots, but they will say on sequences. For example, on John Carter of Mars, that other film that I worked, there was an effect called the Thurn, which was this blue, tendrily things that were just forming um, geometry, forming things, right? Well, the Thurn, because of the nature of the Thurn, was a procedural thing. It was visible that it needed to be done with something procedural, and the only thing procedural is Houdini, right? So they went that way. Um, well, those choices are made by the supervisor. Sometimes you have the people that have Houdini tattooed on their chest, and they will try to do anything in Houdini, even if it's counterproductive and harmful for the production. Um, but yeah, that's not up to the artist, for sure. Should we try to master more than one program in order to be competitive in the industry? Well, not many. I will say if you have the energy, because you're young and you're starting and you're eager to be there, learn Maya and then Houdini. I think that would be good. And if you have even more time, learn some Nuke. You'll be all set. You don't need to learn anything else. Um, I found that some effects FXDDs, just like ILM, require lighting and render ability. Something like setting up render passes. Does that mean we have to render it out and send it to compositing department directly? Yeah, but they have a recipe. Don't worry about it. I mean, the whatever you're learning on this course, the little bit of, um, it's not we're never going to render anything. So, the little rendering we're going to do and the discussions we have about it, that's enough. Because when you get there, even if you're a professional lighter, you're going to have to read the wiki page they have at the studio and learn how they do it. So any person can do it, can learn it. Nowadays, render passes are set up with the script. You don't have to worry about that. So let's say you do whatever, particles. And the compositing supervisor already specified that he needs certain passes. Okay, so the people from, let's say, from tech support, right, from R&D, along with the lighting department and the compositing department, they will write up shelves in Maya that you just push a couple of buttons and just does all the passes for you. So it's all automated. Don't worry about that. Learning how to light and it's important. And that's why I suggest you learn photography. in your spare time, even your iPhone, doesn't matter. Um, that's lighting. That's real lighting. Watch movies for what they really are. They're a series of pictures, right? So watch a film and understand how it's been lit, where the colors are coming from, and all that. Learn lighting in the sense of looking at an image and understanding where the key light comes in, okay, where it's coming from, understanding what's necessary to integrate your element, your effects element into your shots. That's what they mean by lighting, you know, understanding that. Because you're gonna have to take a lighter scene and open it up and then get rid of 80% of the things that he has, which are not necessary for your effect. Keep whatever's missing. Or simple as, like I said, just identifying where the sunlight is coming from, which direction, and what geometry do I need to include to be able to cast the shadows that are necessary to make my waterfall, for example, fit in. Right? That's what they mean by lighting. So don't worry too much about it. Specify and focus and master simulation. I'm noticing from the questions that are coming that you guys are spread out too thin. You're thinking about many things that you shouldn't even be thinking about right now. My advice, okay? You're paying me to teach you how to become an effects guy. So you can take this advice or don't take it. Don't worry about it. I'm not gonna be upset. But if it was up to me, I will disconnect your internet and block everything other than learning this material. I know that you have to put the trust on someone, stranger that you don't need, you don't know. Sorry, but well, take it for what it's worth. Don't spread out to think. Don't even put any neurons of your brain to think about other softwares or other things. Just get those particles and get those fluids and get whatever is coming from, which is a lot. Whatever's coming next, I'm sorry, which is a lot of information. Make sure you master that. Everything else comes on its own. I never in my career, I never ever grabbed a video or tutorial, a book or something about lighting. No. I learned by looking at the scenes and looking at the lighters' work. I go into dailies and staying a little bit longer and understanding how lighters talk to each other. How you're learning every day, so that's more important. So focus on that. As far as sending the passes to compositing, that imagine that on the big on Weta and ILM, which is the two biggest places I've been. Those are scripts. They're done automatically. They even do the compositing automatically for you, and it gets submitted to dailies automatically. So don't be too stressed out about that at all. Okay, Vidun, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I'm sorry, Vidun. First question: do I need to light and composite my effect shots for my demo reel before sending it to big companies like MPC? Is it okay if I light my shots in Maya and present Maya renders on Playblast only? Well, I think we already discussed that on the previous Q&A and already on this one, so I don't think it's necessary to answer this question. Do you know Soup for Maya? Can you please tell us how to learn it ourselves? There is hardly any training for it. Can you introduce us to Soup well enough so we can pick it ourselves further? No, Soup is not necessary. I know it, and it's very old, and it hasn't been touched for a long time. It was a good idea back then, but they didn't put the effort. I even talked to the guy who did it, the Russian guy, because we worked together somewhere, about doing a course, but I'm talking about 6 years ago, about it, but he didn't put the energy on that, so I'm not going to mess with that at all. And you shouldn't do that either. You should try to learn these things first. I don't think it's necessary. I learned how to do it by just playing with it. They have demo scenes, so you can download the demo scenes if they even have them on their website anymore. I don't even know. You download the demo scenes and you figure it out, but it's because it wasn't developed and more than that, right? I thought for a while the Maya will Autodesk will buy it and just introduce it into some of the tools, but never happened. And you know that Autodesk likes to buy all the technology and just put it in there and change their branding. So they didn't do it with Soup. So I don't know. I don't think it's necessary. The third one, since Houdini is the new in thing in VFX so much, If I make my effects demo reel in Maya well enough and it looks good, do I still stand a good chance of securing a job in effects against a Houdini guy? Studios think Houdini is more powerful and more procedural for effects these days. Well, I've been paid before to go into a studio just to learn Houdini and to do their films. So if they want you as an effects guy, doesn't matter what tools you use. Because the Houdini people think that it's the only tool that works, and they also think you can pick it up quickly and no problem. Um, I can tell you, if you have a good demo reel, if you can do effects like I do, for example, you're not gonna have a problem with what software you're using. So don't worry about that. There's many studios that use Maya, many. They just don't like to acknowledge that they do so. So don't worry about it. Just learn how to do the effects. If you want to give Houdini a chance, you should, of course. Um, but if I'm not doing it, right? If I'm not doing it, if I'm not worried about it, if I can say that I can go back to films and don't worry about that, then make your decision. If you like it, you become a better effects TD by using Maya. Then Houdini will be like an extra tool to do cooler other things, to be more procedural. Not everything is procedural. That's the big problem. That's a big problem. Just like in the car industry, they think the carbon fiber fixes every problem. Well, people in the effects industry, they think the Houdini is the only, well, procedural is the only way to go. But they haven't come to a realization that not every effect is procedural. You don't have to do, okay, the same effect hundreds of times in every single film. That's not the way it works. So it is worth trying it, but I wouldn't put all my money into that yet. If I get a job in effects and it's my first job, what kind of work and difficulty can I expect in the beginning of an effects job? It's a bit disappointing at the beginning. If you're not careful, you could get stuck for a while doing stupid things. Like I say stupid things because when you finish my courses, or my course, I think you're in this one only, but when you finish this course, you will have done so many cool things and so many complicated things done in films that you don't want to go to a studio and then just get to do a little dust, for example, like foot impacts, that we do in class number 3 or whatever, or 4 of the power user program, imagine. You don't want that, so you have to be careful. It happens all the time because you have to pay your dues, let's say. It's like the army, you have to start at the bottom. But you need to be very clear with them what you like to do and what you want to be. So for example, on Ice Age 2, which was my first real film, let's say, big film, the first thing they gave me was some dust, which is in the business is just like the worst thing you can get. I did that for a month, but I ended up doing the biggest water shots on the film, which is the breaking of the dam and all that. How do I go from doing dust to doing the biggest shot with water on the film? Well, by making sure that people understand what you want to do, and by taking initiative, and by being proactive, and by being outspoken and not being shy. A lot of the things that I want to see in this group, also from you, Vidun, I want to see your tests. I want to see how you are proactive. I want to see how you, show me that you are better than the rest, So you're going to have to do that at work in order to be able to get out of the basic shots, If it's a small studio that are in a hurry, well, they might just throw you into the fire right away. I don't know. But you'll be prepared. If you finish everything and you do your assignments correctly, you'll be fine. You have another question here. I know you have mentioned this is one of your videos. Since Maya instances are not geometry, in very special cases where if you need to further emit particles from instances from specific points, do you know any GUD Maya scripts to convert instances into geometry after simulation? Is it possible to convert instances into geo while keeping their animation so we can play stuff on them manually? Yes, you can. I don't know the script by I don't know the name on the top of my head. But if you do a Google search for Maya instances to geometry, you're gonna find a very old script that is more like 12 years old that does something like that. So yeah, that probably just Google Maya instances to geometry. Something will come up. I've used it before, but I don't remember. Pardon me if you have covered these questions before. I haven't finished lesson 19 yet. Well, 19 is something you can watch without uh, waiting. So you can just watch 19 and then continue the rest because 19 is Q&A. So that's okay. If I see a question that is repeated, it's been answered before, I will just skip it. That's all. Don't worry about it. Eduardo. Okay, so this one is in Spanish, so I have to translate it. So he's telling me if you wasn't dynamics, any other areas that we would have liked to learn within the VFX industry, aside from dynamics, I probably would have been a lighter, probably. Um, Let me think. Yeah, I think lighting would have been cool. Um, I like architectural renders and things like that. So I would have gone that way. I'm glad I didn't. For example, he's asking me, for example, environments, matte painting, compositing. So yeah, that's basically what I said. I would have enjoyed lighting, if anything, if it's not effective. Um, how was it how do you decide for dynamics and not something else? Probably is what I was asking. Um, well, I think I explained that on the previous Q&A. I chose dynamics because I learned a bit of everything, and I chose dynamics because it was to me the coolest thing. The coolest to me is still the coolest thing. The coolest thing you could do in the whole pipeline to me is effects. I like dealing with gravities and forces and all that kind of stuff. So that's why I chose to go that way. He's asking me also what kind of dynamics do you get excited to do in a film? What do I prefer to do? Tornadoes, rain, smoke, waves, insects. What do I like to do most? I don't know. I think I like working with particles and fluids a lot, and destruction in general. Um, yeah, probably that. That's what I like to do. Not too much water anymore. I think yeah, what is called destruction, which is rigid bodies mixed with fluids and particles. That's pretty cool. From the movies that you have participated, which one have you liked the most? Let me just because it's kind of tricky. That's the way he's asking me. Um, okay, so what's the effect I like the most out of the films that I worked on? Yeah. Let me think. Well, I keep coming back to the same. I know it sounds like a broken record, but it was just a big thing for me. But um, my waterfalls, I think it was a big achievement for me. I don't know. Some of you may not like them, but um, it was so hard to get to that point, and it was so important for the film, for the company, for myself. It was so important to get to that point, and other people couldn't do it, and I managed to do it. So I don't know. It felt great. Um, that's why. You're asking me also why. So that's probably why because it was such an important thing. He gave me separated me from the rest of the team. He gave me some sort of I don't know respect from others that it was necessary. So that's why. He says also, I understand that our focus is on dynamics and the process of rendering, lighting, and compositing sometimes is done by other areas within the industry. But do you think it's possible to record our own scenes? Um, well, that's such a long question. So he's saying, okay, we focus on this course on dynamics, right? But um, and he understands that rendering, lighting, and compositing is done by other teams within the industry. But he's asking me, do you think it's possible to like film our own scenes, then do the effects of dynamics, and then have a composite of our effects, um, just for our own personal satisfaction, let's say? Um, yeah, you can. I mean, if you do the if you do the all the lessons of the Effects Power User program, for example, there we went in and we did some tracking and teach you how to track a camera, and then Victor did some nuke lessons. Even they're basic, but they're there. Um, so I yeah, absolutely possible to do that. So it's not something I'm going to focus on the course, but I think you know absolutely. I don't see why you wouldn't. Um, and I'm very sorry, but the thing is that your name is in. I'm thinking Korean, so I can't say your name. But anyway, thank you for doing all the Q&A session. You're welcome. I'm gonna keep doing them quite often. He's studying Houdini. Okay, how do you think of this simulation-based procedural VFX? Which is better, and how industry is using both in feature film? Well, I believe I already answered that. None of them, one way or the other is not better or worse. There's just different ways of doing it. Just don't put all your money into procedural only. Um, I don't know. I think the industry has to be using them um, correctly, and just not, again, not putting all their effort and their money literally into one technique or the other. So I think my ideal effects team will have artists from both softwares, that will respect each other, and they will understand that, what's good for one is not good for the other, and pick and choose correctly. That's my ideal. If I were to direct a film, I will do it that way. Let's see, Fabrizio is saying, if they call you to do Avatar 2, will you come as a supervisor? I wouldn't come as a supervisor because I will go, but I wouldn't go as a supervisor because Weta is a very, very picky and delicate place. And they have so many people with so many years that have been there forever. Like I said before, they've been there since Lord of the Rings. So there's no other better people for the job of supervising than them. I have to understand that, of course. But I will go there. I'll probably be like I was, like I'll probably go as a lead or something like that, which is good. I enjoy it. I don't need too much with titles. Like I always said, I don't pay my rent with titles. You know, if I enjoy my position, okay, and they leave me in peace to do my work like they used to back then, I'll happily go in any with any title they want. It doesn't matter. What matters is the amount of money they're gonna give me. That I will definitely work it out. But yeah, I like it. I will go back. Do you believe? I don't know if I would. I think if the timing was right and I wasn't doing these things, and if I'm enjoying too much where I am, which I'm having a blast here, I'll have to think about it. But I wouldn't say no just to say no. Second question: do you believe in some moment you could teach other fields of VFX and VFX learning? Not me, because I respect that very much. I respect you guys too much for me to try to teach something that I don't think that I have complete control. So with these things that I'm teaching, I know that I have complete control. I know that I know very, very well how to do it. Enough to teach. I hate those teachers that they barely know something and they think that they can go ahead and teach it, and then when something goes wrong, they don't know how to fix it. It's just terrible, right? So that's what I myself, personally, Louis, I cannot teach other areas. But I see the future of VFX learning as like having other instructors in other areas teaching. I haven't done it yet. I used to do it before. I know some of you may be following VFX learning for years, but when I first started, we used to teach. There was four of us. I used to teach what I teach. My simulations. Igor was doing with me that, and also doing the intro. We had Victor doing Nuke, and we had another guy doing Houdini. And I even had another instructor hired to do animation. Very good guys. But the company was starting, and I didn't have enough money, I would say, probably, or reputation as a website, right, to compete with the other people. So my courses always sold really well, but no, it wasn't the same for the others. And the other guys wanted too much money from me, and I couldn't, guarantee that it was going to work. So I decided to stay to myself. I don't have to worry about that. I know what I can do, what I cannot do. But my problem is that I haven't done it again, is because to find someone like me on another area, let's say an animator that knows so well. For me it's tricky because I will have to know that person and see what he did every day, and so I don't want to sell a product that is not amazing. But I probably will have to do that because I will have to at some point, when I finish these courses, I'll be retiring from teaching, and I don't want the website to die. So I will probably have to locate some people to teach modeling and lighting and all that. So in the future it will come. I'm pretty sure. Let's see, there's more questions here. Would you like to learn other areas of VFX, for example, compositing, editing, and modeling? No, not anymore. I'm done. I'm very happy with what I learned. I had the opportunity, but I just no. I think I invested so much time and effort to learn what I do, so I would like to use it until the end. So, fourth question is uh, okay. It's asking nowadays what university degree is being asked to get a job in the production of VFX. None. They don't ask for that. If you're in the university and you want to do film, unless you're loving it and you can pay it easily, stay. Otherwise, just quit. They don't need that. You need a proper demo reel, you're gonna get it here for $500 instead of 50,000 bucks or something. So they don't ask for a degree, never. I don't have a degree, so they don't ask for that at all. They want to see a demo reel, they want to talk to you and see what you have to say about the demo reel. That's all. Can you find job without finishing a career in a university degree? Of course, because you don't need a degree, so don't worry about that. To be honest, between you and I, Fabrizio, I don't know if you're watching this in English, but I will say the same in Spanish. But what I would like to see, and the only way you're gonna get a job in VFX, if you start posting assignments. I haven't seen anything from you, not very much. So that university degree is not gonna work. It's not gonna help you. You can be a master's degree in animation, but if you don't have a demo reel that shows that, then forget it. You're not gonna get a job. So focus on that. All right, let's go with Matt. Let me just move up. Okay, Matt is asking me. I've been reading a lot of companies' reviews on Glassdoor, Framestore, MPC, Double Negative, based in London. Those companies are based in London, and a lot of the feedback is that salaries are low at the moment. Do you think that's just a blip, or will FXCDs becomes another low-paid job? Nah, it's not gonna be a low-paid job, and it's not a low-paid job because it's not a, let's say, a regular, mundane task within even within the industry. So it's impossible to be a low-paid job. I don't know what they consider low. It's been lower than before, but you have to think that back in the day, just to get a computer to be able to learn Maya was just so expensive. So it was different, right? All the guys doing effects at Disney, for example, back when they started using 3D, those guys were, driving Porsches and all that kind of stuff to work. So it was different. Um, but all the time that I worked on the industry, my salary only got bigger, not lower. So I don't know. People just like to talk out of their ass. Part of my French. They just like to say random crap online. Don't be too worried about that. So I wouldn't worry about that. You need to know how to get your salary up and be more attractive to companies and all. I know for a fact that I used to make a lot more than some other my teammates, for sure. Not because I was special or pretty, just because I knew what I was doing with the computer and with negotiating my salary. So I don't know. Don't worry about that. Anyway, some of those companies are just hanging by a thread because they don't know how to deal with customers and all. So they keep sacrificing. The chain breaks on the weakest link, right? So sadly, some artists they let the companies mess with them and then just treat them badly because you let them do that. So they will just try to screw people over with salaries and overtimes and things like that. And if you let them, then it's your fault. So hopefully, what I would love to hear is that someday soon a proper union, you know, will be created for this, and there will be some of their rights will be protected a little bit more. But negotiating your salary, if you're attractive to the company, they're gonna pay for it. That's for sure. Uh, Brian is asking me one. In the lessons of the course, you show us how to do an effect in 1 or 2 hours. Is it that easy when you are at the studio? Because you have told us that for an effect you have to do many versions. Well, I mean, I'm working like I work in a studio with you guys. So to set it up, yeah, it takes 1 or 2 hours, not a problem. You have to do many versions just because they change the geometry, they change the animation, they change. Well, the director has a vision; he might want something different. But that's why I teach you guys how to create an effect that is easy to tweak and change and adapt. That has always been my motto, right? Has always been my goal with this course, and I'm pretty sure you all agree. And I do that just because I want you guys to be able to do your versions faster and better. So that's all. So yeah, it is that easy. Just listen to my what I say in my lessons and just follow it. You'll be fine. Second question is how many effects do you have to do while you are in studio? Uh, well, it's asking me, how many effects you have to do in the studio, even if you have a lot of very little experience. No, I can't say. There's no set number for that. You do what they give you. Some movies, they have very many different little shots or little effects that you can do a lot, but sometimes you get stuck with one shot for the entire film. So I don't know. It depends. Third question is now that we're practicing, can we make. Sorry, let me just read this in Spanish and try to think what he's saying. Okay. He's asking me, now that we're practicing, that we're covering a lot of lessons, um, you guys can do a lot of effects using the setups that we've been doing. So Brian is asking me, when you get to a studio, can you recycle what we did in class, or are they strict and force you to do it from scratch? Brian, they're never gonna force you to do it from scratch, but you should never tell them that you're bringing your tools from home, okay? Because they're gonna expect you to do things even faster. So what you do is you bring your tools from home quietly, set them up, okay, load them into your scene, and work at your own pace. Don't work too quickly, because you're gonna, you need to pace yourself, and don't let the producers and all that think that you're working at home and bringing things into the studio. You shouldn't do that. But yes, you can recycle. You should be recycling that. I do. So don't worry about it. You can bring your things, and just don't tell them. You don't have to tell them what you're doing. And he's thanking me for doing a lesson about these questions, and of course I'll be happy to do it. Okay. I hope I'm doing it right. Shuijin, hopefully. I'm sorry. My respect if I'm doing it wrong. Thank you for doing all the Q&A. Here's some of my questions. What is the best way to make liquid looking character? Well, I mean, I will deform the character's geometry with the soft body, for example, as a way, and then emit particles with the fluid solver within. When I say fluid, I mean liquid. Right? The liquid solver, emitting that off the surface. That's a way. You have to think always that the geometry of the character itself is treated differently. So it's just rendered like glass or something. Then the particles that will come out of it are what is treated with the liquid solver. You can look at the case study from the Effects Power User program. There's a case study with Harry Potter 1. So it's called Harry Potter Effects Part 1. That one has the sphere, the water sphere from Potter 1. No, sorry, from Potter 5. That's a character, that's the sphere, but it could have been anything. And you particularly, Shrijn, you are enrolled into the Movie of the Week program, and there is a lesson inspired by Moana, the film Moana, where I just have the water surface act like it does in the film, kind of thing. So that will give you some ideas as well. Second question, how can we control the particles with audio, like control the particles movement, birth, and color based on the audio frequency? You can load audio into Maya. That's what animators do to the audio wave, audio file. You can load it, and that's what they use for lip syncing and all that kind of stuff. Now, as far as controlling the particles with that, I will have to think about it. To be honest, I don't want to say something I'm not sure. I think I've done something like that. I will have to think about it. Let me probably answer that. I'll try to keep it in mind and put it on the next one of the lessons that it comes forward. Third question, some of the FXTD jobs require computer language coding. Do you think is necessary? Which coding language would you suggest to learn? Keep something in mind. The list of job requirements are ridiculous, and 80% of the time they don't even correct. Those are written by human resources assistants and temps and things like that. I never heard a supervisor saying, I need someone who knows how to do this, like 12 things. No, that's not true. They want an overall good effects guy. They're not going to put you to create a tool. If you're applying as an effect guy, if you're applying for another job, like what you call it, R&D or things like that, or effects developer, okay, that's different than as an effects artist or effects TD. There's something called effects developer. The effects developer might be required to program. That's a different thing. An effects TD is not. So don't be too hung up on that. If you want to learn language, I will have to say, aside from Mel, which is necessary, we were learning that for free in the course, let's say. If you want to get another one, try Python maybe. Or if you really like coding and you want to do plugins or other things, which you can do in Python, but you can also do them in C++. So one of those two could be good. But please don't do it yet. You're doing really well, switching on your assignments. I really enjoy what I'm looking. You give. I'm glad I could get to say it now, because if I write it, it might sound weird, but you probably are the only um, woman in this group, probably. Maybe I'm trying to remember all 87 of you, but so you're bringing a nice touch to a nice style to your assignment, which I like it. I've always seen it that you always give it a very feminine touch to the look and overall way that you work, and I think it's great. So you're doing a great progress. So try not to get distracted. I'm pretty sure, if I'm understanding, you are also at university at the moment, if I'm or just finished, or so if you are in the university, then you have a lot more work to do. So leave the programming for later, I think. Okay, Chandra is on the house. Chandra is asking me, how do you prepare your models for destruction? Basically, any character or vehicle involving with the dynamic of rigid bodies or geometry, interaction with water, like a car crash, oil tanker explosion, plane crash. Do they use the high resolution geometry? No, you never use the high resolution geometry. That's for sure. But um, you will use the usually what we have is what is called level of detail, and the level of detail is like the name tells you, it's just that you have a high resolution model which is used for rendering. Most of the time, that model is not even loaded into the scene. That model gets loaded automatically on render time. Then you have medium resolution, which is used for working in Maya, okay, so moving around and animating and all that. And then you have a low resolution, or let's say an effects resolution, which is a lower res. Um, when there is a shot that is marked for destruction, marked for effects, those are treated differently. So the regular level of detail scripts, let's say, they just take a high poly model and then do two reductions, automatic reductions. That's not going to be. They're going to prepare it. So some areas of the model will be high resolution, some will be low resolution. For example, in the film John Carter of Mars, I arrived and the models were already done by the time I got to the studio, and no one talked to the modelers and explained to them how destruction was going to be and all that. So we had to redo maybe 50% of the models that were done, because they were doing, for example, these ships were made of wood. Uh, Wood that had a lot of planks, right? And we had to destroy them, but they were done all as one piece of geometry with a texture. That's not going to work. So we had to ask, we need to go back and ask them to separate that and create the little planks and add more detail. And also, um, you need to be working, very closely to the modeling guys early on the project to be able to save money and not to, waste time, which is the same. Um, so yeah, you use special models. You put more detail in the areas that are going to be on impact. Things are going to be visible. You have to be very careful with that. How do they make those convincing and control the formations dynamically? I hope you do a brief session on this topic with a few examples in a different situation. Um, yeah, we'll talk about it later, but it's well, we'll talk about it in class. It's better. It's part of the course. Vidun is back and he's saying, one second. Vidun is asking me, I know we have learned destruction dynamics with buildings in Effects Power User Program after learning fluids in the Effects Masters. Can you start introducing us to destruction and effects on animated vehicles or choppers or characters, and how to control the Maya RBD solver um, in breaking off each part on our own? How do you manage scene scales like chopper crashing into a building? Well, um, I'm afraid not, because it's not part of the program. As you can see, we have a very clear and straightforward topics list. So in this course, we won't. On the movie of the week program, because of the nature of that course, then yeah, you get to do a little bit of everything, and even more on the San Andreas destruction and water. That's just for destruction. So in that course, yes. In this one, we won't be covering that. Um, just need to go through the list, and we'll see what you can see what's coming. So that's not really part of the program at the moment. I'm sorry, but if you later on you join one of the other two courses, you will definitely be dealing with those kind of things. But I'm not trying to wash my hands of this question. I'm just saying that if you take the knowledge that you got from every lesson in general, from the effects power user to the case studies to the effects masters, you have more than enough information to work on those kind of distractions that you're saying, because it's just the same. It's just mixing cloth with soft bodies, with rigid bodies, with collisions. So you just need to be very creative and remember everything that you learn on my course, and try to be, like I said, creative and modify things and combine techniques, and you'll be able to do it, because there's no special way to destroy a car different than destroying something else or deforming a flag, or it's the same technique. So you'll be fine. You just need to be um, into it. You need to be, don't expect me to go in and teach you a particular effect. You're teaching you so many techniques right now that you'll be comfortable with anything. So my advice to you, Vidun, is just to make sure that you watch and do. I think you joined the group not long ago, but you're saying that you learned the destruction, but I haven't seen anything from you. So I would like to see, and you have to, in order to get the certificate. And the certificate I see it as a personal achievement, right? Something for you. Like if you want to make sure that you one day you say, you know what, I finished the entire thing. I'm gonna have to see every single assignment from the power user program all the way to this one. So give it a shot, because I'm asking you this because um, if you do all the assignments, you're gonna answer your own question here. You're gonna feel ready to do that kind of destruction. So you'll be fine. But you need to start creating things and start sharing, which is an advice that I give to every single person watching this and listening to this. I need to see more. There's 87 of us now. So share, share, share. Do assignments, practice. That's what you're gonna learn. Okay, I think I covered all the questions for now. That's good. So with that, well, I thank you once again, and we'll see you on the next one. I will be posting, in a few more lessons whenever I see that is needed. I'll post another one of these things, and you can put new questions in there. So with that, well, again, once again, thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next class. Have a good night. Bye bye.